Hello and welcome to another edition of the Foundation for Free Enterprise Education's Speaker Series. My name is Michelle Warofka. Joining me once again is CEO and owner of Choice Careers, LLC, Mrs. Clara Console. Welcome back, Clara.
Thank you for having me again. I'm looking forward to this session.
Absolutely, as am I. Thanks so much for being here again. Can't thank you enough. And as a quick recap for our viewers, in part one of this series, you shared with our viewers some helpful advice and tips on what makes a great employee. In other words, what employers are looking for from their employees, which is wonderful, everyone out there that wants to stand out in the workplace, which who doesn't these days, right?
Exactly.
So, great information. So today, for part two, you'll be sharing some of the challenges employers are faced with that will help us to better understand what employers don't want from employees, as well as some great career tips for our viewers. So let's go ahead and get started, Clara.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michelle. And for those of you that didn't have a chance to see the last PowerPoint, what I wanted to really focus on is the fact that some of the stuff that I covered was really basic. A lot of people say to me, but we know this stuff. Well, yeah, we all know this stuff, and yet employers still complain about it. So it works, it helps to remind everybody that some of the basics are really what makes a great employee. In the same token, it's a good reminder to share with people what employers don't want in employees. So I think one of the most valuable lessons I can share with anybody looking for work today, especially young people, is what really turns employers off. And that's what we're going to go over today. So to get started then, just as a reminder, I've been working with employers and employees for many, many years, working with employers specifically, in many cases, to offer training programs to their employees, to design apprenticeship programs for newer, younger employees. So over my last 30 years, I've heard a lot of what works and what doesn't. So that's why I can come to you to share. And as a career coach, I certainly share this information with the clients that I've had. So we are dealing with, if you are tuning in now, we're dealing with current COVID. In some cases, it's post-COVID. Some companies are back to work. So the good news is that the American economy is definitely on its way back. Employers are very optimistic. They have some challenges in that they're trying to recruit employees back. And in some cases, they are looking to hire new employees. But there are businesses that are hiring. And as a quick reminder, if you are out there looking for a job, note that most of the jobs are not necessarily listed online. So if you're looking online, know that that is only a percentage of the jobs are out there. So networking and working with people that you know is the way to get jobs. So the challenge is still, in today's world, is minimizing the labor and skills gap. So employers are still looking for higher level skilled employees, but also employees that have what we call the soft skills, which are the communication skills, the personal skills, which is what we really reviewed last PowerPoint. So if you haven't had a chance to review the PowerPoint from the last session, I urge you to go back and look at them as well. So moving forward then, again, what employers are looking for is a great return on their investment. As an employee, you are an investment. Somebody is investing in you based on your salary and the benefits that they're giving you, vacation time, sick time. The total compensation package is really your salary plus everything else that costs money. So even if you're offered a $50,000 job, your total compensation package could well be over $70,000. So that employer is looking for a good return on their investment, not just to break even at $70,000, but they want to see what value you can bring above the $70,000. So that's a good reminder that people are spending a lot of money on employees. It's not just the salary. So to review then, what are the challenges that are facing some employers? Especially when they interview, they can tell right away, probably within the first 5 minutes, if you're going to be a good fit for their company. And that's a critical piece. So you definitely want to practice and get ready for interviews, especially with the soft skills that we talked about earlier on. But let's just jump in. So one of the things that turns employers off the bat, especially at interviews, if you are scheduled to be somewhere at 9 o'clock, make sure that you're there at 10 of at least. You don't want to be there too early, but certainly you don't want to get there at 9 when you're huffing and puffing and so forth. When you're called to a meeting, make sure that you're ready. You've got a paper and pencil with you. I don't know how many meetings I've been at where people do not come ready, and part of the reason is because they're running late. So that is a pet peeve of many employers. And again, some of this is really basic, right? But we have to say it, because when we ask employers what are the top 10 pet peeves, lateness is definitely top 10. Next one, lack of details and errors. I just had an email this morning, I just have to share with you, from somebody who wants to do some marketing for me on social media. And out of the 2 paragraphs that this person wrote to me, there must have been 10 typos. And I was going to reply to say, you might want to check out your typos, but since I didn't know the person very well, but know that first impressions are everlasting impressions, especially if you're on the job. So if you are writing emails or writing reports, texting is kind of different anymore, but certainly when you're emailing, you definitely want to proofread your work. And if you're doing articles and you're doing presentations, oh my goodness, please have somebody else proofread your work. Some of the pet peeves that I know that I have, it's the its versus its. Here's a rule of thumb. When you see that there is an apostrophe in that word, it means that there's a word missing. So in this case, when you see it's with an apostrophe, it means it is. So try to read your sentences to see if it is actually means the right thing, or if it should be it's without an apostrophe. Same thing with there, and there. Your and your. I don't know how many times I've seen you're welcome with Y-O-U-R. And to me, it just means that this person is not detailed. And I know we do it all the time. And especially if you do you speak into your phone, it makes a difference when you're employed. And then certainly if you're looking at numbers and you're working with numbers, you're writing a report, you're sharing with your boss the kind of monies that you're bringing in. If you're in sales, for example, make sure you proofread your numbers. So that is a big no-no. Typos, detail, errors. It just shows me and other employers just how much detail you have and how much you care about your work. The next one, abusing the internet. So when an employer is paying you to do work, and certainly a lot of the jobs come with sometimes researching in the internet, which is fine. But many cases, there are employees that are doing shopping, they're playing on the internet, and I'm not saying never ever do it. Maybe when you're on a break and you want to do that, just watch what you're doing on the internet. And in some cases, employers do know what you're doing. A lot of employers actually have cameras and videos going on in their work for whatever reason, security reasons. So you just, when you're hired to do a job, do the job. Focus on your job, and then go above and beyond the call of duty, and just watch what you do on the internet. Enough said about that one. The other one that I can really talk about is how much employers complain about people being on their cell phones too much, texting during the job. We all do it. What I'm sharing with you is just do not abuse it. To let your employer know that you are working hard for the money that he or she pays you. So just watch how much you use your cell phone. I know in many cases we actually have our cell phones right next to each other at meetings. When you're in a meeting, do not take phone calls. Do not take texts. That can wait. If anything, put your phone upside down so that you don't see what's going on. And as a word of caution, if I'm meeting with somebody and they're looking at their phone, it just says to me that they don't care enough about me, that they care more about what's happening on their phone. So just be careful with how you use your phone. That typical phrase, that's not my job. I've heard way too many employers talk about people that when asked to do something, they kind of give like, that's not what I was hired to do. That's not in my job description. You know, when you want to stand out at a company, and again, no matter if it's profit, nonprofit, I don't care what organization you work for. If you want a future with that company, if you want to be respected, try to go above and beyond the call of duty. So if your boss asks you to do something that it's so well within what the company is supposed to be doing, certainly if you can do it, go ahead and do it. You don't necessarily want to always say, no, I can't do it, I'm not available. If you can stay a few minutes after work and your employer needs you, do it. So if they ask for something like that, certainly think about your future and how you look towards that employer. So I really don't want to hear that any of you say, that's not my job, that's not in my job description. Unless it's totally something that you are totally against, I would encourage you to try to do it if you definitely want a future with that company. This goes a lot for a lot of the young people that I've worked with and that I've heard about, and I've even helped place some employees in jobs. And within the first 3 to 6 months, they want a raise, they want a promotion, they think they can be the director of the department. And I value that motivation. I value that the desire to move up and so forth. But know that even after 3 months or 6 months of being on the job, let your employer, let your boss say to you, wow, you've come a long way, I'd like to give you a promotion, or I think you're ready for a raise. But in most cases, nobody's ready within 3 to 6 months of getting a promotion or a raise. But if you took a job, for example, as a starting person, and you know that you're doing the job well done, you can certainly meet with your boss to say, I'd like to sit down with you in the next 3 to 6 months to evaluate where I am, and maybe we can talk about what steps I need to take to become promoted or to get a raise. And I'd like to talk to you about my career path. But to expect a raise and to go to your boss and say, I expect a raise, I've been here for 6 months, that's a little bit too aggressive and too assertive from my perspective, generally speaking. And I've heard that a lot from young people, so I just wanted to caution you. This is another pet peeve of employers, especially with a lot of the younger generations. You might find that within the first couple of weeks, the job is just not perfect. Your boss is not perfect. The people that you work with are not the ones that you really would like to work with forever. But what happens is if you quit a job too early, it just doesn't look good, especially when you start looking at your resume. You don't want to have a lot of jobs on your resume that have less than 1 year of work. So I always tell people, try to stay at least a year before you really ascertain if this job is not good for you. I've had way too many employers that have said to me, I hired people and they quit their job right away, they didn't like it, whatever. Part of the growth process as an employee is to learn how to overcome these obstacles. That'll make you a better person, that'll make you a better employee. And you know what? After 3 weeks, it might get a lot better. Because again, only in 3 weeks, you're very new. So try not to judge the company, the other employees too early. And again, it doesn't look good for you to do that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, and this happened to me where a young person's mother came to me and said, I'd like my son to move back from Pittsburgh. Do you think you can help him? And he wants to get into manufacturing. And I said, sure, why don't you connect me with him? He connected with me. He wrote me an email starting with, "Hey," which I told him is not the way to start a professional email, by the way. You don't know me yet. Anyway, he got his resume together. It wasn't great, but 3 or 4 months into this conversation with the mother, she said, "You know what? He quit his job, and do you think you can help him?" And I said, "Why did he quit his job?" "Well, he wanted to come home." And I said, "I can't recommend him. If he's quitting a job where they've already invested in him a year and they've helped him to get his bachelor's degree, he just quit his job just to come home. That to me is not a good sign." So if you're quitting your job because you found another job, that's one thing. But if you're quitting your job without having another job to go to, that's a tough one for me to respect. Again, unless it's something that's really, really bad and it's happening and you have to quit, that's a whole different discussion. But anyway, so especially quitting a job soon after you're hired does not look good on your resume. So trying to learn from every experience. This is really critical when you start your job, and assuming you haven't received any formal training yet, there are laws that are basically called employment law in your organization. You know, there's federal laws and state laws. There are some things that you just cannot do at work. And some things are against the law, but other stuff is just basic common sense. Like if you're in a meeting and you are upset, certainly being upset is one thing, but overreacting is another. So you want to be as professional as possible. Inappropriate touching or commenting, inappropriate language too often is just not appropriate at work. Certainly nobody's perfect and you're going to have those days, but if you find yourself that you're doing some of these behaviors, look at yourself in the mirror and see how you can help yourself. And in many cases, your company does have training that will be offered to you, but certainly watch the inappropriate behavior at work. It just is not professional. So those are the basic top tips that I've given people about what not to do. But I also wanted to leave you with some positive things about your future. And if you are considering getting a job, whether you go to college or not, that's not the issue. At any one point, you're going to be looking for a job. Unless you're very, very, very wealthy and you don't have to work, which is very, very few of us, I would suggest some of these tips that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to put my reading glasses on just to make sure I get the right ones. So as a career coach, there are a lot of people that say to me, you know, I'm going to find my passion. Well, your passion might be planting flowers or landscaping, and maybe that's not the job that's going to feed you or pay your bills. So I always say, you certainly want to look for your passion, but if that doesn't lead you to a job, find a job that feeds your passion. So sometimes your passion is your hobby. Sometimes your passion is a combination of things, but don't just rely on your passion, rely on your skills and your aptitude and your interests as well as your passion. But sometimes your passion might be building jigsaw puzzles. Well, not many people are going to pay you for that. So I go above a little bit by saying, look for your passion, but make sure that it also meets your skills and it feeds you and it pays you for your bills. Another thing that I wanted to really share with you is watch what you post online, whether it's Instagram, and probably a lot of you don't use Facebook anymore. That's more for people my age. But no matter what, if you post things on the internet, it is there forever. If you comment, if you, and even if you're using Snapchat or whatever the next big thing, just watch what you say online. It reflects on you, and employers do check, by the way. I also want you to choose your friends wisely. It is important for you to surround yourself with people that are going to help you, not hurt you. They can also post stupid things on the internet about you. And certainly for your self-esteem, having people that are positive around you is much, much better than having people that bring you down or zap your energy, because that will not help you with your job. My other tip is learn from everything that you do, whether good or bad. And I want you to take the word failure out of your vocabulary. So there are times, for example, where I've had other companies and the company has not succeeded the way that I wanted to. I do not consider that as a failure, because there is a learning opportunity from everything that you do. So whether you have good friendships, bad friendships, good jobs, bad jobs, you are in activity, learn something from everything you do. Take the positive out of what you can learn, but also take a negative and turn it into a learning opportunity. Another tip that I want to share with you is to work hard and smart. So there are times where I say to people, you're working hard, but it's not the best approach. So take your time, think about the efficiency in how you work. There are times where I also talk about kids and young people that want to get into the trades or they want to work in a company. If you're working with your hands, that's also working hard and smart, and you're working with your hands and your brain. So think about the combinations of working hard and smart, working with your brain and your hands. So only working one way is not necessarily the most efficient. My next tip is mind your manners. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of young people that don't have the best manners. And I know for some of us that it sounds old-fashioned, but learning how to use your silverware at a lunch meeting, how to use your silverware, which silverware to use. I've seen a lot of young people and older people too, they just don't know how to work at a business lunch with their manners, putting the napkins on their lap. And this seems old-fashioned. Opening the doors for other people, not necessarily if you're a male or female, but learn manners. And you can certainly look up manners on the internet to find out what are good manners. It just goes a long way. When you communicate, even if you're working at a company, and I know nowadays with people working from home, it's kind of hard to do this. But with the use of Zoom and other virtual platforms, try to communicate face-to-face. It makes a huge difference. Write often. Learn how to write well without typos, as I mentioned before. Definitely try to communicate and practice your communication skills as much as possible. When you have an interview, make sure that you send a personal thank you note. That's very important. I don't know how many young people actually use thank you notes or write letters, but that's something that's going to make you stand out. Number 7, think purposefully about your next job or career step. If you want to be a sports writer, think about taking a summer job or volunteering as an intern at a news station or online. If you want to become a chef, make sure that at some point you actually work at a restaurant. So be purposeful, and I use the word strategic about your next step, and be strategic about getting to a job, or even if you're going to college, be strategic as to why you want to go to that college, and is that college going to offer you the best opportunities to get a good job at the end. Number 8, figure out what you're good at, what you like to do, and if there's a job career where you can be successful. There's a great website called onetonline.org, onetonline.org. That is a federal database of all the occupations that are available mostly in this country, but it tells you the skills and the aptitudes and the interests that connect with the jobs. So that's definitely something that you should work towards. Talk to people about what you might want to do. If you want to be a dentist, go talk to a few dentists. If you want to be a contractor, a construction worker, talk to a few people. Figure out what your interests are, and then go talk to people about it, what the real world of work is like. Number 9, don't let others talk you into or out of something that you actually absolutely would like to do. And I'll give you an example. When I was a junior in high school, I really wanted to be a cosmetologist. I wanted to use my artwork, my psychology. I wanted to make people feel better, and I was really, really good at it. But my parents basically said to me, why don't you think about going to college instead? And one of the reasons was that I had a brother at Yale and I had a brother at MIT. So if you think about what those two colleges represent, my parents said, college is the answer for you. And now when I talk to my parents, and they're in their 80s, they actually agree with me, and they said, if we would have allowed you to do that, and I said, yeah, I would have probably owned a few salons by now. So just because you want to do something does not mean that you don't go to college. I can certainly have gone to college and gotten a business degree and worked at a salon, and I could have married the two and still done what I did as my passion. I do that now. I volunteer and I do makeovers now for people. So I still follow my passion, but I certainly could have had my job as a cosmetologist. And then number 10, have fun and try to enjoy whatever you do. That's really critical. If you're not having fun at what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, try to find something that does give you that fun, because you know what? You then take it home with you. And whether you affect your parents or your future spouse or your brothers and sisters, your pets, it certainly makes sense to have fun while you're doing it. And I'm not saying it has to be 100% fun, but try to find something fun in everything that you do. So that's basically my tips for today. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shared with you. And I certainly thank PFEW for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of my wisdom.
Clara, thank you. Wonderful information.
Very welcome.
Thanks so much for joining me and for sharing your insights and expertise, because really you are an expert in all of this with the entire all the viewers. Thank you so much for taking part in this, and really we can't thank you enough for not only taking part in this speaker series, but for all that you do for our foundation. So thank you for your commitment and the passion for the work that we do.
I believe in PFEW. I really, really do. So thank you for doing that.
And it shows. Thank you so much, Clara. Really, and I know this was just part 2 of the series. So hopefully, if you didn't get a chance to go back and watch that part 1, but I know this 2-part series as a whole, has not only provided a lot of helpful and useful information, but it's also, I think, really empowered our viewers to be valuable, standout employees and really separate themselves from the average employee, and a great employees as they embark on the career of their dreams. And, not only for the students, or people that are, looking for employment, for a job, but I think it's also, some great gentle reminders for myself included, for those of us that are, in our careers and in the workforce. So,
and it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that much to be above average. It really doesn't take that much to really showcase who you are as a person, and just go above and beyond the call of duty, and you will get noticed.
Absolutely. Very good. Fantastic. Thank you again, Clara. And thank you everybody for watching.
Bye-bye now.